What's going on, everybody out there in Badger Nation? I am super stoked today because I'm joined by someone who I consider a friend, someone who I respect their e-commerce knowledge so much. And awesome, we do this all the time. We talk about e-commerce growth, digital marketing, entrepreneurship all the time. And I'm stoked to bring our conversation to the Amazon Marketing Minutes. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited, man. Yeah, we have these conversations all the time. We sit down, we have mastermind weekends. We'll just hop on a call at lunch. We'll talk about how to grow businesses. So yeah, I'm excited, man. Thank you for having me on the show and bringing me in with your community.
Yes, and in case anyone hasn't seen this before, we have been going live every day of this crisis to talk about all things e-commerce growth because things are changing so quickly on a daily, hourly basis. And typically our podcast takes like a week to produce. We wanted to start creating on a channel where we can share everything that we're learning up to the hour, up to the minute with people. Some of the topics that we're talking about is how to manage your PPC campaigns and your budgets and your bids during a crisis. We covered loan assistance from the US SBA, mindset, a lot of mindset stuff because we were talking to a lot of our users and if the mindset wasn't there, they couldn't take all these tips and actually go and implement them. Reviewing a lot of things that we're doing on our clients. And Austin, I'm super stoked to hear what you have seen from your clients. And I will brag for you. You've worked with such incredible companies that I used as a customer. And then like weeks later, I saw them on your like logo page on your site. I was like, no way, like you consult for them. So you have such a keen, you have your ear to the ground to such smart e-commerce brands. And I would love to just sort of start with this question that we have on the bottom of the screen.
Sure.
What do you see the smartest brands doing right now?
Sure. So to put it in perspective, at least the reason why I feel like I have a good understanding is that I have a community with about right now almost 200 e-commerce brands that I'm doing coaching and training with. And then of those groups, about 10 of them are like the highest growth companies, and I work with them on a weekly basis to kind of figure out and come up with ideas to grow the business on a week-to-week basis. And what I've found really interesting is, first and foremost, what is actually the question that I ask is like, what is actually happening to these brands? And this is something that I think we're just figuring out now, right? The crisis has been going on long enough that we're starting to understand what type of an impact it's had on brands. Mm-hmm. So I see, the three buckets. I've got clients that have grown, clients that have stayed basically the same, and then some clients that have lost revenue from this crisis. But the majority of my clients have been in the either stay the same or have grown a little bit. Mm-hmm. And when I look at what the smartest brands, the brands that I have been working with that I really respect what they're doing, there's a couple things that come to mind. One, it's making sure 100% that you are recognizing that something is going on and you're changing your messaging to reflect that. Right? That's something you can do really, really quickly, really easily, and have a lot of success with it. That doesn't mean that every email says, in these uncertain times, right? Because I think people are getting sick of that. You don't need to lead every email with "in these uncertain times." What you can do is just reflect that we're in a very unique time and we understand what's going on in the conversation in our prospect's head. We understand what people are dealing with. So make sure you reflect that a little bit in your marketing, but don't be like, there's a hilarious YouTube video this week. Somebody cut all the commercials from like 50 major companies in the US into one commercial, and it was like all COVID commercials are the same. It's like sad piano music. We're all in this together during these uncertain times. We've been with you before, we'll be with you in the future. Then buy something, right? You don't need to do that, but reflect your messaging.
I saw this great meme that was like, before coronavirus, buy a Hyundai. After coronavirus, in these uncertain times, buy a Hyundai.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's a difference. It's about being creative. It's about just reflecting the messaging, but not doing the same thing as everybody else. And at the same time, moving forward, a lot of I'll give an example of a company that I'm working with that has done something I think really, really smart, and it's reflected in their sales. So they are I guess I would consider them like a home design company. That they curate pieces to make homes more beautiful, and you can purchase pieces for your home from their website. And what they did right away, shift to a work from home collection. So on their website, they have a work from home collection. When you get to their homepage, it says, "We are shipping like normal. We're in business. Everything is sanitized." They also are now giving a percentage of their profits to create masks for healthcare workers. And a lot of their messaging has been shifted to promote some of these products that help people have a better experience working from home or spending more time at home. And their sales have reflected it. Their sales are at all-time highs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting seeing how certain companies have responded. And I'm sure a lot of the brands that you work with are just by definition, newer companies, more nimble companies.
Yes.
Whereas you get like the Hyundai of the world, if they want to release a marketing message, they need to want to change something up. They need to go through so many levels of bureaucracy. Whereas a more nimble, agile company, which is what's needed right now, is able to upgrade their messaging, really be on point, resonate, as opposed to, those laughable, memes and, supercut of all these sad piano music in these uncertain times. And I also think it's crazy too, what you just described, they didn't actually change their product offering. Like they just changed their messaging relating to their product offering.
Yes.
So on point. I saw something from somebody, I think I was watching Noah Kagan from AppSumo. He said something like, if you haven't changed your thanks for signing up email yet, it's like you're way behind. Where it's like just letting people know, like when they see that messaging on the homepage, they end up making that purchase. It's like you want to reflect that, like every sort of interaction. So even updating the thank you for purchasing message in these uncertain times, I'd like to thank you for your order.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I think that's a good point. And I want to just touch on one thing that you mentioned about being a nimble company versus one of these large, like an automaker or a grocery store. Often when you look at these larger companies, they make their decisions around that marketing based on what won't get them sued versus what will, or what will allow them to do business without getting flamed on Twitter or by trolls. So it's not necessarily like what might be most effective. And if you're a small, nimble brand, I don't think that means right now this is a great time for like daring marketing campaigns or humor, because that has a tendency to fall flat. But I would say it just I do have the ability to be more creative. There's a really good company, a company that I think is really interesting. It's called Verb Energy Bars. Have you seen these?
I have not.
Okay, so they are small, little, basically like mini granola bars that have a shot of espresso in them.
Nice.
And they have a really cool online funnel. It's like a free trial sort of thing. You get for like a shipping price, and then it converts into continuity. But what they did is when this pandemic hit, they decided, okay, how can we help? So they made a public goal to give, I believe it's 500,000 of their bars, donate 500,000 of their bars to healthcare workers to help them get through long shifts. And it's like a perfect fit, right? A little bar with caffeine to a healthcare worker who might be working late hours. So every time people buy 2, they donate 1. So if you give away 500,000, that means they got to sell 1 million bars, which is a lot of bars to sell. So their sales are probably going to be hitting it, and they've been publicly documenting their progress on that and sharing how their bars are impacting healthcare workers. So it's a really cool idea to be able to help people and also drive more sales in the business.
And I'm on their site now. It looks awesome. I found the 4-bar trial.
Yep.
Exactly what you're talking about. I mean, what a fantastic example of an e-commerce brand. Everyone should go and check this out. This is the page that we are referring to, and it just looks awesome. The packaging, the way that they describe it. I think this is the page that you're referring to.
Yeah, I don't know if you can, I can't see your screen, so I don't know if you're trying to share your screen or not, but it's probably the page that I'm talking about. And they're also sending out an email campaign because I'm on their email list.
Cool. Yeah. And they have like reviews of people sort of describing it, and they're saying like how much they enjoy it.
Yes.
So that's awesome. So there is like an opportunity to be, really elevate a brand and show people that you are there to, actually genuinely be helpful, as opposed to, nobody likes those overly corporate messages.
No.
So that definitely looks like a really great example of it.
It's also just a great example of finding a win-win opportunity during this time. And there are those opportunities out there, right? Initially, when this was kind of kicking off, I had a bunch of clients reach out who were kind of nervous about like selling or, running business as usual, as we were trying to figure out what to do during this time. And, I think the best thing you can do is truly look for ways that you can create. Like I 100% believe that there are win-wins out there. There are things that you can do. It's not a zero-sum game. If you can do something, sell your product, and also provide success for other people and help other people by doing that. And so if you can dive into your product and figure out where that win-win is, that's a really powerful thing to do at this time.
Exactly. I think at the core of every strong company is a genuine desire to want to help people.
Yes.
And what better time to genuinely want to help people? I've seen companies that perhaps started or lost that initial seed, and like now they're at a point where they're looking so externally, like, I can't believe this is happening, I can't believe this is going on, why is the government doing this or that or not doing something, whereas a lot of smart, savvy entrepreneurs and smart teams looked inward, like, what can we do to continue our mission?
Yeah, I look at this show as a good example of that, right? And I think of
thanks, dude.
During our conversations, you and I talk a lot during just about business or about life. And I look at this show as an example of something that you've done, taking a leadership role. Like, obviously these types of conversations need to be had, and you didn't have this before the pandemic broke out. Yeah. But this is something that it's a win-win here, because it's sharing interesting information that's going to help people and also shares more about your company. And so like these types of things, if you can figure out where they are, they're just so incredibly powerful. They're powerful at any time, but especially right now.
This has been such an amazing show to do. And like, we love doing this anyway. So, originally we were like, oh, we'll do this for a week. Like early March, we're like, okay, we'll do this for a week. And then the feedback has been great. It's been genuinely fun. Like, this is our mission. Like, this is energy generating for me. Like, I love coming on like every day at the same time. Like, it's been so fun to actually help people. Yesterday we talked about how to change budgets, and like, we had so many questions, we couldn't even get to all of them during it. So continuing to find ways to add value to people's lives is the root of all business. And I feel like what has happened now, it just sort of shrinks. It should ideally like shrink that time frame from like what do we have to do to provide value? And it's like, you should always be aware of what your customer is going through. And you always want to meet them where they are instead of forcing them to, come to you. So this has been really nice to sort of do this show every day. Yeah. You tune in?
Yeah.
You guys set the alarm bells in the house.
It's what?
You have to set all the alarms in your house. Like, oh no, 2:59. I got to go online.
Oh, we got to go online. Got to go online, ask some questions.
Yes.
No, it's definitely, it's great to find those sorts of things. And what you mentioned about being tuned in to your customers and doing that at all times, I think that is true. It just happens to be a lot harder when not everybody's mind is focused on the same thing. Right now, we're all focused on the same thing, which is extremely unique. And in fact, I don't remember a time ever where the entire world has been focused on the exact same thing. Maybe World War II was the last time, but even then there were places that weren't necessarily impacted by it.
I can think of a sooner example.
Was it? Tell me.
Pokemon Go.
Pokemon Go.
Everybody.
You got to catch them all.
I was attending a sales training and they mentioned there's never been an easier time because typically you have to do surveys, you have to do research to find out what's going on inside your customer's mind. And now you already know what's going on. Now
all you have to say is in these uncertain times.
That's it. Steven says, not me, wasn't impacted by Pokemon Go.
Well, you know what? One of the few out there.
One of the few. Austin, I want to thank you so much for sharing this. This kind of mindset stuff is exactly, and sort of mindset and strategy wrapped in one. I think it's incredibly important to keep these in mind, that there are ways out, and we can always look at the situation and ask ourselves as marketers and as company owners to really ask, like, what can we do to better serve our customers? What can we do to provide more value for what people need right now? I'm going to drop comments on Facebook and YouTube. E-commerce influence is where people can find you, ecommerceinfluence.com. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Really, always a pleasure.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Always fun. Always happy to hop on and check it out.
Yeah.
And you can go to ecommerceinfluence.com. We got a podcast. Comes
Great
out
podcast
every week called the E-commerce Influence Podcast.
Yeah.
What's that?
I've got a secret for all the Ad Badger diehards. When we were making our podcast, I was inspired by you.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. So if anyone wants to see something that inspired the Ad Badger podcast, go check Austin out. In fact, I think our first conversation you ever mentioned to me was how rewarding your podcast was for you, like personally and professionally. And absolutely. So everyone who listens to our podcast, you have Austin to thank. So check him out for sure.
Well, cool, man. Well, thank you so much for having me on. And thank you to the Ad Badger community. Yeah, man, I will talk to you very soon. Anybody has questions or anything, I guess would be the best place to post in the comments. And then if you have questions for me, you can also, I'll hop in there and answer them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Austin. Really appreciate you coming on the show. And everybody else, we are continuing to go live every day at 3:00 Central. Until next time, and I'll see you inside the Badger Den.